Hi there, and welcome to this special audio production on O'odham history. My name is Leonard Bruce, and in this episode, we're going to dive into a document that I found while digging through some archives. This was back in 2016. I stumbled upon this document while I was working on my original database that would eventually become the O'odham Learning Library. Now, to give some context into this, the document is a letter and a transcription of a conversation between Frank Thery, the Indian agent in charge of Gila River in 1912, and a local O'odham man named Anton who had started singing O'odham songs. Domingo, Blackwater, and Leo Varavhas are also at this meeting to help interpret, with a Mr. Martin in the background doing some transcription of what they're saying. In this situation, Mr. Thery was a longtime employee of the BIA, but he was new to Gila River. He had previously been employed at some other Indian schools, but this was his first year overseeing the Gila River Indian Community. Anton was a well-known and well-liked member of the community, and information I found on him shows that he was born in around 1871, and at the time of this meeting, he was probably about 40 years old. This is an interesting history because while I'm sure there were other instances of resistance, this is a recorded conversation with someone from the community that was trying to fight against both government and religious control. Now, during this conversation, you'll hear that many folks were worried about him reviving what they called the old ways. There were no issues with folks singing in O'odham as long as they were in church. But there was a lot of fear about the revival of old traditions because some community members saw themselves as modern. Now, Anton had received the song that he had in a way that many of our singers receive their songs, in a dream. Now, as you hear the story, his dream came from an extremely traumatic event. And it's important to note that messages coming from dreams were pretty common for O'odham. In Papago Woman, Chona talks about how boys would run long periods of time with no rest or water in an attempt to reach exhaustion and go into a dreamlike state, kind of like Anton experienced. He was told that he needed to keep singing his dream song to cure himself, and pretty miraculously, he did survive. Now, according to his account, he didn't want to share the song or start anything social when he first started. He just wanted to sing because that's what he was told to do. Now, afterwards, local boys and men from around where he lived and from other villages, they were attracted to hearing him sing, and they came to sing themselves, very likely because they also wanted to take part in this revival of tradition. But this turned into a major issue, and other community members, as Thery puts it, progressive O'odham, they turned against him to stomp out this perceived revival of our culture. There are a lot of interesting stories in this piece. The way Anton receives his song, the struggle of Thery trying to justify why Anton's singing is wrong but other singing is acceptable, and the tension of religion versus traditional practices. I've edited this text for clarity and time, and I'm using 11 labs to help with the voices in here. But if you're interested in reading the original document, I will have it on my website at leonardbruce.com under data sources. And with that, I hope you enjoy this production, and I'll see you on the other side to kind of go through what we heard. Thank you.
Mr. Blackwater, please inform Mr. White that I understand he wishes to discuss the issues of dancing and singing we talked about several months ago. To ensure clarity this time, I've arranged for an official interpreter. You, Mr. Blackwater, along with Mr. Leo Varavhas, who is accompanying Mr. White, to help verify and correct any inaccuracies in real time. I want both of you to work together to ensure that everything Mr. White expresses is accurately captured. Mr. Martin will record the conversation in shorthand and then transcribe it on the typewriter. We'll send this directly to Washington to make absolutely sure the Commissioner fully grasps Mr. White's perspective. Mr. Blackwater, if there are any errors during the translation, please address them immediately before we finalize the record. Now, go ahead, Anton.
Since the accident happened 2 years ago, I made this song not because I want the people to sing it. It is because I want to sing it myself. But other young men have gotten interested in my singing, and they have come over to listen to me. And pretty soon people in different villages have heard that I have songs, so they come over to listen to me too. I sing my songs and the young men sit around listening to my singing. I suppose it is because they have heard American songs in school, and they are interested in those songs for their education and for their amusement. But some people have also been against me singing. Most of these, I think, were policemen. At that time, Mr. Thery wasn't here and they held me in the court. And they said that I will have to wait until Mr. Thery comes before we can settle this thing. After Mr. Thery got back, I waited for over a week. Finally, Leo Varvas and I went to see him at his office. He talked about the traditional dances of different tribes and told us to come back in a week for his decision. We waited past the fair and through New Year's. During this time, we got a letter that was so confusing nobody at the Indian school could make sense of it. We ended up asking Hugh Patton for help, and he explained what it said. Later on, by pure chance, Leo bumped into Mr. Thery, who made it clear.
I'm okay with you singing, but dancing is off limits. You can sing in small groups, but no dancing at all.
We kept on singing, and the boys joined in. They really enjoyed it, but it wasn't long before there was pushback about the singing. One day, a policeman left a message at my house saying I had to stop. When I got home that night, I found out what he had said. The next day, which was a Monday, the same policeman showed up with Mr. Gilman, the farmer, who told me I needed to stop singing. I asked if the agent had given the order, and he said no. It was the local people who wanted it stopped. He named Hiram, who lives west of here, as one of them. I pointed out that we're supposed to follow the agent's orders, not just make decisions amongst ourselves. Yet here they were, making complaints to the agent about me. Mr. Gilman reassured me, saying, "You can keep singing." That was the end of that conversation. But then another policeman, Officer Xavier, came by and wanted to see me at the agency on a Friday, which was also ration day. He told me I couldn't sing anymore and warned that any more singing would lead to further action. So, I stopped. But then I found out that Xavier's grandfather still sings at night. Why do they let him sing and not me? I'm not causing any trouble. I don't drink or cause a ruckus. I just sing for my own enjoyment. Yet, when Xavier's grandfather sings, no one bothers him. Why the double standard? I wonder if the agent has something against me, or if it's the people who don't like me, though I can't figure out why. Now, about dancing. I've only added a bit of dancing since my accident. It's all harmless. Yet at white folks' circuses, you see all sorts of bad behavior. Drinking, gambling, even violence, and no one stops those. Why do they come down so hard on me? I'm just trying to pass the time and keep our traditions alive. Once I'm gone, all of this will probably end anyway. I don't think the agent himself is against me. It feels more like it's some of our own people. That's why I came here tonight, to get some answers directly from him. That's really all I want to discuss.
Tell him that I'm going to have what he says written out just as he says it, so that the Commissioner will understand his side of the case. I'm going to ask him a few more questions about some things that he did not explain. How many different songs does he sing?
Just one.
What is that song about? Is it a religious song, or is it just a funny song for amusement, or just what kind of a song is it? Is there anything vulgar in it?
It is just a song that I sing. There is nothing dirty about it whatsoever. It is just a song.
The song is about his accident, right? I understand that his accident was a goring or hooking, as we call it, by a cow or a steer, which resulted in his being unconscious for some time, and during that time, this song came to him. Is that right?
I was down here at the corral where they butcher government cows for meat. They got a steer down there, roped him by his horns, and I was standing by the fence, and one man riding on a horse had a rope on the steer. As I was standing over there, the steer started towards me. I thought the man would twist the rope round the saddle horn, so I did not move. But I saw the steer was getting pretty close, and the end of the rope flew out of the man's hand, so I knew then that the steer could not be stopped. So I started to run and ran towards a wagon. I thought I would climb on there, but I was so excited that I just ran round the wagon and the steer came after me. Before I got on the other side, I looked back and I saw him right close to me, and he hooked me right on my jaw, on my throat pretty near clear through, and there I fell suffering with pain.
The steer hooked him on the jaw, and then it went through his neck?
Yes, people took me up and laid me over there by a ditch, and then they took me away. As I was going, I pretty near died, and as they came near my house, I pretty near died again. I laid in my house for about 1 month without anything to eat, merely a little water to drink. At the end of the month, that same steer that hooked me came to me and commenced to sing and dance round me, and he said if I would sing this song, I would get well. That was how the song originated, from that steer that came to me.
Was he unconscious during all of those 30 days?
I was conscious during the 30 days, but at the end of that time I was asleep, and may have been dreaming.
Mr. Blackwater, you tell Anton that I have always considered him my friend, and I want him to consider me as his friend. It is true that a good many people, soon after he came here, made complaints about his reviving or starting up again, the old practice of singing and dancing. In speaking of that, I don't want him to feel hard or bad towards his own people, because those who have spoken to me about him, at least almost all of them, have spoken kindly of him as a man, as they say that his habits are good and that he is a good worker. And it is not him they object to, it's the revival of this old practice. Many people, both old and young, the Pimas I mean, think they have outgrown it. They think they have advanced far enough into the ways which exist today that they hate to see their people start up something which they have outgrown. You understand what I mean? They are not objecting to him, but to this old practice. If anybody else has been singing, it wasn't reported to me, and of course what is right for one is right for all, and what is wrong for one is wrong for all. It is true that the white people and the other Indians who are complaining about his singing and dancing come together, and some of them sing at church and have their meetings, and some of them dance at socials. The complaints that have been made have not been so much against the singing and dancing as they have been against the reviving of an old custom. It is true that I explained to him before that the dancing had not been stopped everywhere amongst the Indians. There are many Indians in the United States who are far behind the Pimas, and they live much more according to their old customs and ways than the Pimas do. In cases where they have their social dances, the authorities in charge of Indian affairs have discouraged it, but they have not forcibly stopped it. They have never given strict orders to stop it. They have just regulated it. They did not want to cut everything off until the Indians found some other way to amuse themselves, and the way the officials would look at the case here with the Pimas as compared with another tribe is the Pimas have become pretty well advanced. In fact, they are among the furthest advanced of any of our Indians in the United States, and this method of amusement was given up by them a good while ago. Now it was their idea that they ought to discourage the revival of that old custom, not because Anton's intentions are bad, because I don't think they are. I think that in his own mind he is honest, and does not intend to do anything bad himself, or to allow others to do anything bad, but the idea is this, that the people generally would not look upon that sort of a plan as progress. They would be inclined to look at it as a step backward instead of a step forward. I talked to Leo about the dancing, that it was prohibited. He spoke to me about the singing. Someplace on the road, I remember him talking to me about it. And I tried to explain to him that there is no harm in singing a song, providing it is not vulgar and that has no bad words in it, and providing there is nothing in it that may influence other people into a wrong road. Now, I don't think there is any more harm in 2 or 3 of these men getting together and singing, whether it is in English or Indian or Chinese, just in a social way, so long as no bad thing goes out. But the minute there is a bad thing goes out from it, then it becomes wrong, and something that I, as the agent in charge, would have to stop. There are a good many people who have complained about this because they think there is something wrong. Some of our own social arrangements often bring harm or a bad influence. For instance, as you know, when I came here, the young people were all playing tennis. I even played it myself. But they were playing on Sundays, and I found after watching it for a week or 2 that there was a bad influence coming, and it was drawing the crowds to the tennis court instead of going to some of the religious exercises of the churches. So I stopped it. The same way with our dances. We allow the employees and the returned students, and in fact, anybody who lives around here to come here and have a good time at our socials and dances. However, I had to close them early because they were going too late. And so it is with everything. These things have to be regulated. The thing may not in itself be bad, but the influence that goes out from it may be bad. It may work against something that is better.
I'm glad to hear Mr. Thery tell me about this, but if my singing is going to be stopped, I wish other people would stop singing too. But these other people sing. They sing Indian songs, and when I started to sing, they came and reported me. So if my singing is going to be stopped, I wish these other people would stop singing. I don't want to hear them sing. We haven't got the white man's ways yet. We still eat the food that our grandfathers ate. We still have their ways. We have no water, but we are still like the old people are, in a way. Now, if these people want to stop me from singing, they have to stop singing too.
Does he mean by that to object to the songs they sing in Indian at church? That is, the religious songs when they go to the Presbyterian and Catholic churches.
Yes, I mean those people who go to church Sundays. They stay there all night long sometimes, singing. On Wednesday evening, they sing Indian songs till very late. How is it different?
Will you tell him that if it is shown that there is anything harmful that is going out from any kind of meeting, I would stop one just as quickly as the other. If they go to church and stay up so late that it interferes with their work the next day, I consider that wrong, no matter what kind of a meeting it is. There is only one thing else that I want to say, and that is that complaints were made about a week or 2 ago about the singing, and I did give orders through the Chief of Police, Xavier, to stop it until it was looked into again. I, of course, want Anton to feel like he will be given a fair chance. That is why I have taken all this trouble to get his side of the case so that it can be read over carefully in Washington. Now, I don't know when we will get an answer. I will send it in as soon as we can get to it. We are very busy now with other work, and it will be some little time before Mr. Martin can write it out on the typewriter, but I don't want them to either sing or dance until I get a reply from the Indian office about it, and as soon as I get that, I will send them a letter showing what that reply is. Of course, I will probably talk again to some of the people who have been opposing the singing, and if there is anybody that he would like to have me talk to on his side, if he will give me the name, I will call them over and talk to them about it.
I won't mention any names, but I want these people who sing in church to stop singing as long as I am required to stop singing.
Well, of course, he had just as well understand now as any time that I won't stop that. I won't ask the Indian office to stop it unless I see some bad influence going out of it. If he has any reason to set forth further than what he has already said against that, of course, I will be glad to take it down and send it in with this statement. But so far as stopping anything so well established, well, practically all the Pimas are members of one church or the other.
The complaint I make against singing Indian songs at the church is this. Whenever I sing in Indian, there are only boys and men who come to meet over there in my house. But when they have a meeting at church, there are women that come there from a distance at night. They stay there all night. When they come home, they have a social time on the way with other men. There have been several complaints of another man's wife or another woman's husband mixing up. Now I think this is wrong more than my singing. That is one reason why I want that to be stopped over there, and then my singing will stop. These people cross the river to come to church, and some of them leave their wives or their husbands at home to meet somebody else. That is wrong. In some cases, there are men who have hard feelings because their wives have left to go to church. That is wrong. On my side, there are no women there whatsoever. So I would like to have this thing stopped over there, and then mine will stop. And I want to know, why is it that they have got it in for me, that they have such hard feelings toward me? I can't understand it.
Well, now he says that he would like to know why they have got it in for him. I tried to explain to him a while ago that so far as I know they don't have it in for him, but they object to somebody trying to revive old customs. Many of them have made strong objection to that. They don't speak unkindly of him, and I don't understand they have got it in for him. It is simply the reviving of a custom that they think is a thing of the past, something that they look upon as a step backwards instead of a step forwards. It is not the man they are opposing, it is the practice. Well, Anton, if there are no further remarks, this hearing is closed. You'll hear from us soon. Dear Sir, on September 30th, you appeared at this office and asked permission for yourself and associates to have gatherings at which it was proposed to have Indian songs and dances of the old style. I have made very careful inquiry into this matter, both from parties who are in favor of your plan and from those who are opposed to it. It appears that you are more or less a leader in the attempt to re-establish this old dancing custom, and that you are prompted to do so because of certain alleged dreams or visions which are said to have come to you while you were sick, after having been gored by a steer. After having considered this matter very carefully, and especially in the light of the wishes and instructions of the authorities in Washington regarding such matters, it is my conclusion that meetings of the kind you propose should be prohibited. From my investigation, it appears that similar meetings have heretofore been prohibited by Superintendent Charles E. Coe of the Camp McDowell Reservation, where this class of gatherings had most frequently been held in the past, and that very soon after these dances were prohibited by Superintendent, some of the effort to keep up these dances outside.
So as you heard, Anton did hear back from Thery, letting him know that dancing in the future was going to be forbidden. Revival of Indian songs or dances were going to be prohibited in the community. And as you heard, he sent that letter out to farmers, schools, and police officers to enforce those rules. He did this without any response from Washington. The actual response from Washington came a year later, and the agency did support his decision, kind of obviously. At that time, there was a lot of pushback to any revival of traditional practices in Native American communities. Now, I haven't found any documents that ever overturned that original ban on dancing. And in one documentary I saw on Snaketown from 1969, there was a narration over a video that had women dancing in it, and it talked about how the old style of dancing was just starting to be revived and celebrated in that time. In the Gila River Indian Community, we still have a dance ordinance. It dates back to at least 1952, and I know that it's still around today. And I found it interesting, we don't have a more generic public gathering ordinance or a party ordinance. The ordinance that we have, the law, is strictly about dances. And sometimes I wonder if that ordinance is a legacy of this story. But either way, I find the story to be just as relevant today as it was at the time that it happened. We still have people who are pushing the boundaries and trying to either bring back the old ways and practices, or recreate them when they've been forgotten or not shared with them. And we still have haters today that try to bring those folks down. So I hope everyone listening to this story takes inspiration from Anton and works to make change in their community. It isn't always an easy road, but just like how people were drawn to Anton's Defiance, the ones who matter will be drawn to you. We need more of us to actively learn and revive our history and culture, and to share that with whoever's interested in it. Whatever you decide to work on, Don't listen to the haters. Don't listen to the bureaucracy. Just listen to your dreams and sing your song. Thank you, and I appreciate you listening. Goodbye.